Hello, and welcome again to another episode of Mind Renovation Nation, brought to you by Red Maple, your go-to source for institutional style property management of small multifamily rentals. I'm your host, Nathan Bush, and each show I share with you lessons from my real life real estate investing and real estate business growth experience. We invite industry experts, innovators, and influencers to explore the challenges facing small multifamily real estate investors each show, and we designed this specific show to answer the questions you have about the debate last night and the effects on real estate investing. If you want more of these types of resources regularly, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel or head over to www.nathanbushmba.com/subscribe and get more benefits from stuff just like this. So check out the other resources in the show descriptions. And I also encourage you guys that at any time, if you have a question about anything that we talk about today, open book, have a conversation, put it in the comments. I'm here to help you and help work through all this stuff tonight. So let's unpack that. I mean, man, that debate last night was something incredible. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, both face off in a national-wide debate. There's a number of different critics who have called that debate a train wreck. It was an absolute show to witness and be a part of. How do you guys feel about it? In the comments, before we even get into it today, before we even start talking about it, how did you feel about the debate last night? Go ahead and throw that out in the comments, and maybe I'll come back and reference some of your comments about that debate later on. And if you like these types of shows in the future, we can incorporate more of what's going on in the world with real estate investing to see if that helps you guys out. So, this show absolutely positively would not be possible without the help of you, the viewer. I'm extremely grateful for the audience that you guys continue to come back and watch a show each and every time. But if you want to be notified about the show, don't forget, I'm going to remind you guys throughout the show a number of times, go back and subscribe to the YouTube channel. YouTube will notify you whenever I'm going live. Even though we do it every Friday at noon, this will help you get notifications and updates about when something new is happening in the YouTube world. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the debate last night, and let's talk about the concept of market trends. The first tip I have for you is you got to understand the market trends and what's going to happen in the market based upon the debate last night. Well, there's two different philosophies. It depends who gets elected. Right? If Joe Biden gets elected, there's going to probably be an emphasis on more regulatory changes, increased government oversight. There'll likely be a potential for increased taxes on capital gains and high income brackets. And there probably will be an emphasis on policies that create more stable but slow growth markets. That's just inevitable. That is the outcome from the things that were talked about in the debate. In fact, Joe Biden made a comment last night during the debates where he said, we created 15,000 new jobs. And I thought to myself, you've had 4 years and you created 15,000 new jobs and that's it? We're also thinking about, he said something or went on about something about 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. And okay, there's some credit there, but that's pretty slow growth for the markets and the things that are going on. By comparison, let's talk about understanding the market trends if things start moving towards Donald Trump. So there'll be a focus on deregulation and tax cuts. That's just who he is. He's a known real estate investor. So he wants to create conditions that are more conducive for the business of real estate because that has been his business and what he's known his whole life. I mean, there's going to be a focus on lower taxes on capital gains and corporate earnings. You'll also see some encouragement of more dynamic and rapidly changing markets. So that can be good and bad. Rapidly changing markets are not necessarily a great thing for real estate investors from the standpoint of if the market changes too rapidly and you're not in a position to take advantage of the trend or the change, then you could miss it. And so these things are critical. I mean, one of the things that Donald Trump said in the debate last night that led me to believe that this was the position that he was taking. He said, I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history, and that's why we had all the jobs. So huge regulation cut, fast moving markets. Do you see the correlation on how those things can happen? So the first tip that we have to understand if we're going to have a better knowledge and be better prepared to deal with the shifting markets is, which way is the economy leading? Are we leaning towards maybe more of a Joe Biden economic policy throughout the country? Or are we leaning more towards a Donald Trump policy? I don't want you today, guys, to focus on the who. I want you to just use the who to define two different thought processes and two different philosophies. See, because if you focus on the who, if you focus on Donald Trump, or if you focus on Joe Biden, or you focus on Republican or liberal, you're going to end up getting into a debate with me. And that's not what I'm here to do with this show today. Today, I'm here to help you facilitate and navigate the trends no matter what goes on in either economy, whether we have a Joe Biden economy or a Donald Trump economy. And these are just conducives of different political thought processes and spectrums that are out there right now. So again, if we look at a Donald Trump economy, you're probably going to have greater market flexibility, which is going to allow investors to capitalize on emerging trends that come out. You'll probably look at a lower tax burden and probably some increased profitability for a while, which necessarily wouldn't hurt with the overall inflation that we have been experiencing as a country across the board. And you're going to have enhanced investor confidence that's going to lead to probably more robust investment opportunities. So as investor confidence begins to rise, there's probably going to be an opportunity for more investor participation in the economy. So instead of parking money on the sidelines or maybe parking it in quote unquote safer short-term investments, like I know a lot of investors are doing right now, if they feel that they can capitalize on something with a limited risk, you might actually have an inevitable movement to more investment in real estate. So here's the tip when we're talking about navigating market trends, guys. When we're talking about navigating market trends, how do you do this? Number one, you have to stay informed with the current economic policies and their impact on the real estate market. How do you do that? Well, that's one of the reasons why we have news. I'm not saying binge watch or gorge or obsess on the news. I hardly watch the news or participate in news at all. However, there are certain times where you need to check in and see what's going on in the world so you can be better prepared for what are the impacts of the economic policies that people are putting into place. I'm not telling you who to vote or why to vote or which direction to go for in this show today. If you thought that was this show, that's the wrong show. That'll probably be some show in the future. However, today we're talking about how to navigate these things, how to walk through and unpack that debate last night to make a decision on what direction is the economy shifts and goes based upon the political winds, how you can better position yourself to capitalize on that situation and environment. Number two, you're going to need to analyze market data. This includes property values, rental rates, vacancy rates. Look, here's a pro tip. One of the things that's important to understand is vacancy rates in an area. How vacant are the buildings? So one of the things that we used to do when I was in the apartment world in the management industry, and we were managing large apartment communities, so 700, 800, 900, 1,000 units, we'd do something called a market survey. I do small multifamily today, but back in the day, I could do something called a market survey. And I would call all of the local apartment communities in the area. The pro tip is you don't have to be a large apartment community to do that. You can call and ask for a market survey, and some of the different local real estate property management companies will just off the top of their head spout out that data. What does your vacancy rate look like right now? That's a great question. And they'll tell you, oh, we've got 4 vacant units, 10 vacant units out of 1,000. You can do the math. That will give you what their occupancy or vacancy rate is on inside that building. And so that will be one way to spot a market trend that's going on in a specific area. If you're thinking about investing in an area, please take the time to do your research. Second thing is rental rates. Well, there's a number of different places. Where can you go to get rental rates? We've talked about this on the show various times, but you can go to Zillow, you can go to Rentometer. There's a number of different tools within software platforms, like AppFolio has their own rental rate reader. You can also go to like apartments.com and forrent.com and do your own market research. What are homes renting for in the area? If you're thinking about investing in an area and you see a house that's currently rented at $800 a month, and you could get $1,200 or $1,500 a month for the same house, just maybe make a couple of cosmetic updates on the inside of that property, why wouldn't you invest the money to do a quick reno, a tidy up reno, and get the additional $500, $600, $700 a month in rents? That's a good way to spot those market trends. Now, those swings are going to be much more likely in the event that we have a market that moves more towards a Donald Trump economy. You'll see larger swings. With a Joe Biden economy, you're probably going to see things that are a little bit more stable, slower rental growths, those types of things. Just things to pay attention to and think about. The other thing to think about is that you got to leverage the market trends. So once you identify these emerging market trends in different areas with high growth potential, that's when you can capitalize on it. Look for areas that are up and coming. Look to capitalize on market cycles by buying low and selling high. So many people get all excited about start buying property when everybody else starts buying property. If you want to buy property, there's no better time to do it than right now. Just understand which way the markets are leaning and what's likely to happen. You can't buy a property right now if the markets are leaning towards, let's say, more stable rent growth, and you think that you're going to be able to drive rent growth really rapidly or fast, and the markets are leaning more towards a Joe Biden economy. Well, you got to estimate or evaluate or do your underwriting based upon slow rental growth inside that property. If the markets are leaning towards a Trump economy, now you can maybe be a little bit more aggressive with your estimations. These types of things are going to significantly help you as you're analyzing what just took place and what went on in that debate last night. How do you guys feel about the debate last night? Again, if you're joining us live, we're talking all about the national debates that went on last night. Put in the comments your feelings, your thoughts for real estate investors, what you think is coming up. Remember, tip number one was you got to navigate these market trends. Tip number two, so in analyzing these market trends, regardless of whatever happens in the economy, you got to build a strong network. Look, I was in an event last night. Event was Tours and Pours. We were able to host, wonderful opportunity to host James Gleason through Tours and Pours. And guys, he was incredible and he was fantastic. And he was talking all about how your network equals your net worth. Now, how's that relevant to the debates last night? I'm going to hop right into that in just 1 second. However, I want to make sure I bring up this comment by Chuck online. Chuck says, I feel that Joe Biden should be honestly in a nursing home. Yeah, Chuck. I mean, regardless of how we feel about either candidate on either side, I'm here to tell you right now, our feelings about the candidate is not going to impact how we act in our real estate investing, or at least it shouldn't. We shouldn't have a certain feeling that we want something to happen, regardless of whatever the political winds are doing. We need to make calculated investments. We need to take calculated risks to mitigate the risks so that we don't have an overabundance of bad decisions that happen, all because we had certain emotional feelings that we're going through after something like the debates last night. So hope that was helpful for you, Chuck. Appreciate your position on that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who feel very similar to what you do, especially after watching the debate last night, guys. I feel pretty bad. That was not, I did not expect a presidential, a president, a standing president, to present himself on national television with that level. I mean, they're saying it was a cold. Who knows if it was actually a cold or not, but that level of lack of energy. And I mean, they were talking about it on CNN. I don't think it's offensive. I hope it's not offensive to anybody. They were talking about weakness. So, you know, again, this isn't to talk bad or good about any one candidate today. This is all to demonstrate and help you guys understand how to navigate the different political winds and include them in your real estate decisions. So let's talk about building a strong network again. How is that? That's the tip number two. If you're looking for pro tips today, first one was navigating market trends. The second one is we got to build a strong network. Remember, I told you James Gleason said your network is your net worth. In a Joe Biden economy, they're going to emphasize more on collaboration and partnership with regulatory frameworks. That means get real comfortable partnering with the government. And so if you're going to look at a Joe Biden economy, you're probably going to have more local municipal governments try to enact certain things, more regulations, tightening of oversights, just because of the federal leadership. Also, there's a potential for increased support for affordable housing initiatives. So if you're a Section 8 investor, if you're a Catholic Charities or St. Patrick's Center style investor, and that is your niche, that's what you've been trying to accomplish and go to, is partnering with the government to do those types of things, it might be more favorable and advantageous during that environment if Joe Biden political policies continue to influence the United States. It's also important, you'll understand that it's important to align with government programs and incentives and initiatives when you're investing in a Joe Biden economy. So paying attention to what those new government programs are and how they're going to roll out, those things become increasingly important in a Joe Biden economy. Now, by contrast, a Donald Trump's economy, who are you partnering with? How are you networking and how are you growing your net worth? So there's going to be an encouragement in a Donald Trump economy on private sector partnerships and deregulation, right? So we'll have an overabundance of deregulation that happens, and maybe some of these governmental programs and incentives that have been out there won't be as available for everybody. And so you have to position yourself and partner with the right people in order to make that happen. The second thing that you'll find is there'll probably be a greater opportunity to network with less of a regulated environment. So in your networking, sometimes in higher regulated industries, for instance, in the securities industries, if you give somebody a referral fee for referring you a client that you invest their money, that could be considered illegal. It could be considered taking illegal compensation or paying out illegal compensation because the other person doesn't have a securities license. Well, that type of stuff can become prevalent in the real estate industry in a Joe Biden economy. In a Donald Trump economy, they're probably going to be looking for different ways to deregulate some of those laws to make business dealings more palatable for everybody, so that they're a little bit more lucid. They're a little bit more open for people to make the type of deals that they want to make in order to achieve their goals. You also will have in a Donald Trump economy an emphasis on probably more of the entrepreneurial spirit and the private investment. What does that mean? Well, when you have an entrepreneur who's running the country, who's focused on other entrepreneurs and building an entrepreneurial system, you're going to find benefits that lead towards being an entrepreneur versus being a W-2 employee or maybe even self-employed. You're going to find stuff that's specific to business owners that roll out under a Donald Trump economy. So with that said, it's going to be advantageous in a Donald Trump economy to receive your income. Probably, I don't know, but I think it would be much more likely to be better to receive your income through your business and be able to build a strong entrepreneurial business income and income streams versus being employed or even self-employed. And oftentimes too, even then being an investor, the environment becomes more conducive specifically to business owners. If you followed me for any length of time and you know Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrants, I'm speaking specifically to the cash flow quadrants as an employee, self-employed, or investor. Those are different types of economies, but in the market that would likely be created around Donald Trump's political wins, it's probably going to be more advantageous to business owners. So what does that mean? Well, fewer regulatory barriers that are able to help you facilitate easier and faster partnerships. That's what I would be looking for. So if you're looking to build partnerships and the economy is moving in that direction, that might be a good thing. How about greater reliance on private sector solutions, promoting networking and collaboration? So we know with a Donald Trump political wins that it probably will be less about government interaction and government solutions and more about private businesses and ingenuity. And so there's going to be opportunity that would spring up in a Donald Trump economy or political environment in which maybe you're going to want to create more strategic alliances, more joint ventures, as opposed to looking for ways to partner with the government. You're going to be looking for ways to partner with other businesses. Now, the question that I'd have for you is, how do you effectively network and build strong relationships in a deregulated market? What do you guys think? Online, those are watching online right now, what do you guys think would probably be a effective way to network in a deregulated market versus a highly regulated market? What are some things that you're probably going to focus on? I know myself, one of the things that I just said that I'm going to focus on if the political environment moves towards a Donald Trump, I'm going to focus on more partnerships to build out capital for larger business purchases, larger asset purchases, like larger apartment communities. If it's more of a Joe Biden regulated environment, I might be looking at buying more affordable housing style things where I'm going to flip those properties and maybe look at if I could cash flow them, even if the rents don't increase very much. Do you see the difference? And so I might be looking to network with significantly higher contractors, and I might be looking to network with more of like, I want to be at the Section 8 inspections to build better relationships with the inspectors and maybe have more conversations with people in housing than allowing my team to do it, because in a Joe Biden regulated environment, I want to have those relationships. You see, neither are good nor bad. I'm not saying which way to go in this show today. I'm telling you that there's the government can be a partner in transactions. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are government entities, guys. So when you're borrowing money for your purchase of your home, oftentimes banks are being funded through Fannie Mae or Fannie Mac federally backed programs. So it's not end of the world if government regulation and oversight happens. It's learning how to partner with government in order to make those things happen. Chuck says that one of the ways that he's going to network is that he's going to go to Tours and Pours more often. Thanks, Chuck, for that plug. I hope that you can be a part of Tours and Pours. It's an incredible program that we do once a month, typically last Thursday of every month. All right. So if we're going to increase our networking efforts, we got to first understand that real estate investing is a collaborative endeavor, and requiring and this endeavor requires relationships with a variety of different professionals. So you got to identify who those professionals are in your network so that you can build the proper alliances. These are realtors, contractors, property managers, lenders, and other investors. You know, one of the things that Joe Biden said during the debate last night that I thought was telling of the economic approach that he would have is he said the economy collapsed, there were no jobs, the unemployment rate rose to 15%, and it was terrible. So Joe feels that when he took over, he started with a very bad economy and he reduced the unemployment rate from 15% to where it is today. Now, I do know that there was a significant thing going on at that time called COVID. And so that's what Donald Trump said, too. He said we got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, which was like 1929. So you're talking about building your network, knowing a variety of different people. And as we build that strong network, we got to understand in a slow growth economy or a slow growth economy. I can't even say that. I hate the terminology. However, in a slow growth economy, you're going to have to network with individuals that may be out of a job. These are opportunities where your entrepreneurial endeavors are important in order to figure out ways to work more affordably together. Okay, so you're going to be working with maybe contractors and offering to cover their workers' comp insurance on your workers' comp insurance, but they have to maybe carry their own general liability. Whereas in a faster growth economy where there is significant growth, like Donald Trump said, he said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. So he said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation. So Joe said he inherited almost 9%. Donald Trump fired back and said, no, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then the inflation started to kick in. The inflation has been terrible towards contractors, guys. I mean, the contracting prices have gone through the roof in order to get work done right now. And so in a fast growth economy, there's a lot more people who are employed. So you don't have a limited availability of resources. When you have high unemployment, you have a more availability of lower price resources, that the inflation of wages tends to be slower than in a slow growth economy. The inflation of wages tends to be a little higher. So just things to think about based upon the debates that we were talking about last night. So tip number 2 was to build a strong network. First tip was to navigate market trends and to do so effectively. So we're navigating market trends. We're building a strong network. The third tip, based upon the debates last night. So the third tip is you got to be financially savvy. No matter who's in office, no matter who has taken power and control in the United States, the important thing is that you are very much aware of financial principles that are sound, that are going to work well for you, your company, your organization, and your investments. So I know last night during the debates, Joe Biden's economic focuses, for those of you who are maybe a lack of financial savvy, you might want to look into some of these things. Joe Biden's focused on increased taxation and redistribution. He focused on potentially higher costs of borrowing and financing, and he focused on emphasizing sustainable and equitable economic growth. So what does it look like for an investor in a market with increased taxation and redistribution, higher costs of borrowing and financing, and equitable economic growth? I don't know. One of the things that can happen in an environment with increased taxation that's difficult on investors is that you make more money. So you go out and earn more, but you have less cash in the bank at the end of the year. And that's not a great feeling or a great situation to have less cash in the bank at the end of the year when you feel that you went out and worked hard and stewarded the resources really well. So you go out and steward resources really well, and then the government comes in and takes more money from you than what they did the previous year or the year before that. Now, I don't know if it's necessary or not for higher taxation. I'm not an expert on the economy, but on my finances, I know that the higher the taxation is, the less cash I have in the bank. And so that's the first financial principle you have to pay attention to. The second is the higher cost of borrowing and financing. We have seen that recently, guys. What are interest rates right now? 7, 8% to borrow money to purchase a rental investment. That means that your cash flow and your return on investment on that property has to be significantly higher than the rate that you're borrowing money at. And sometimes that can be difficult when the interest rates are higher for borrowing money. When interest rates are lower for borrowing money, more people can invest because they can use other people's money in order to do so. And we all know in real estate, anybody that follows any of the Bigger Pocket shows or Robert Kiyosaki online or Grant Cardone's, we all know that we use debt in order to help us leverage the cash that we do have in order to buy the highest cash flowing asset that we can. And then we try to mitigate that risk with that debt over, a 2, 3, 5 year period. With a Donald Trump's economy, the important things to focus on from a financial savvy standpoint are tax cuts and incentives for businesses and investors. What does that look like and how does that work? So how does that impact you? Lower interest rates and easier access to capital, and policies aimed at stimulating economic growth and increased liquidity. Increased liquidity. So what do those terminologies mean to you, and how do they help impact your life? Well, lower taxes and borrowing costs improve profitability and cash flow right out of the gate. If you have lower taxes and you have lower cost of capital, that means my capital can work more effectively and I get more leverage out of the same dollar. I also have increased access to capital, which enhances investment opportunities. When the regulations are down on banking and when there's a opportunity for lower interest rates, it gives me access to buy more property for the same amount of money. And then lastly, policies designed to spur economic growth benefit real estate investors directly. So when there's policies in place that are designed to spur economic growth, there's more people who want to buy houses. There's more people who want to, they have jobs to pay the rent. There's more people who are able to afford upgrades and different things that you would maybe offer or different incentives. And you're not having to discount things as often when people have the cash to do things. So if for instance, if you're trying to move somebody into your property and they require a double deposit, they might not have the cash for a double deposit and a full month's rent. So you might be offering incentives or rental credits right now in order to get people into your properties. You might be ordering discounts or offering right now in more of a Joe Biden economy, maybe discounts on your application fees or things like that are able to help incentivize the tenant to take action because they need the help because their cash doesn't go as far today. When the economic growth is happening, now people tend to have more free cash flow in their own pockets, and so they're able to pay a little bit more in order to do the same things because they have the cash available in their budgets. It's not being eaten up by inflation and other things that really hurt and keep them from being able to achieve. How do we know this? Well, I can tell you that last night during the debate, Joe Biden said no senior had to pay more than $200 for any drugs. All the drugs, they include beginning next year. So no senior had to pay more than $200 for any drugs, and all the drugs, they include beginning next year. Donald Trump, during the debate last night, said, I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history, and that's why we had all the jobs. He also went on to say he has not done a good job. He's actually done a poor job. Inflation is killing our country. It's absolutely killing us. So being financially savvy does help you as a real estate investor be able to navigate either or situations so that you can be better prepared to invest in real estate. Guys, I have to take a second in the show today and thank my sponsors. So let's go ahead and do that. The first sponsor being Web Insurance. Let Web Insurance be your guide. They can review your current coverages, make sure that you have the correct policies in place, the most affordable prices, and what their clients love about them is every year they proactively shop your insurances to ensure you're truly with the most affordable carrier with the most appropriate coverages. So from 1099 contractor to real estate investor, if you receive your income via 1099, let Web Insurance be your guide. Go to www.webinsurance.com to get a quote, whether that's health insurance, life insurance, auto, property, and casualty insurance. No matter what it is that you're needing for yourself or your business, head on over to www.webinsurance.com, get a quote, see if they can help you out. All right. I significantly appreciate you guys. Let me share with you my sponsors for the show. They're what makes the show possible. The second sponsor I got to make sure I take a second and plug in here is BBC Global Services. BBC Global Services is outsourcing that helps people like you focus on your superpowers. They're simple and on your terms with no term limits and no minimums. Get a free consultation. Head over to bbcglobalservices.com. At Red Maples, we love BBC Global Services because BBC Global Services provides our virtual assistants. They help out with things like lease application processing, contacting new tenants as they come in via text message, managing the messaging portal. They help us process bills, do a number of different things. You're going to love BBC Global Services. Head over to www.bbcglobalservices.com and get a free consultation. So that's what I wanted to talk about on today's show, guys. We've been talking all about Donald Trump, Joe Biden, the debates last night. How do you guys feel? How did that debate go last night? Do you feel that we're leaning more after that debate towards a Joe Biden economy or towards more of a Trump economy? What's you guys' thoughts? Put it in the comments. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you offline about your independent personal feelings on either one of those two things. You know, there are always important things to help us better operate our businesses. And I would be remiss if I didn't take a second today during this show after the debates to give you some tips and tools, no matter the economy, that will help you grow your real estate business to the next level. And so let's take the second segment of today's show and let's talk all about some different tools and tips that will help you grow your business to the next level. All right. So I was talking with a business owner this past week, and we were having a conversation. And during that conversation, that person gave a great philosophy on how to get more tenants to lease from you. And here's what he said. I greet him at the door, I give him a tour, and I sit down and talk. I greet him at the door, I give him a tour, and sit down and talk. I know what you're thinking. If you do remote showings right now, you're thinking to yourself or saying to yourself right now, I can't greet him at the door because I'm remote. However, the philosophy is still the same. And if you implement this strategy within your business, you might find that you will have even further success on getting more people to lease from you at higher quality because you're spending the necessary time with them. So you meet them at the door. That means when they're getting ready to enter your property, do you have a conversation with them prior to them entering your property so that they know how much you care about whether they rent or not rent from you? Then as they're touring your property, even if it's a virtual tour, they're doing it after hours, you can greet them, have the conversation with them, and then let them tour your property. Once they tour the property, do you ask them questions about what they liked and what they enjoyed about the property? And then lastly, did you sit down and have that conversation with them after the tour? See, these things are critical, guys. You're going to miss out on high caliber, high quality tenants because they're going to think your house is a commodity and not a relationship. See, no matter who's in political office, one of the things that's incredibly important and critical is that people know how much you care about them. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They don't care at all about your house unless they know you care about them. I've done plenty of shows on tenants are destroying your property, or a number of different shows that we've done in the past where we've talked all about the importance of this relationship with people. See, I value people. And if you're a person who values people, you're going to see significant increases in your business regardless of whoever's in office. Second thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to tips for your business today. So first tip is greet them at the door, give them a tour, sit down and talk. Second tip I want to talk about today is we want to teach them to fish, not give them a fish. And this is with all of the people inside of your business. The simple philosophy is that when you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, you teach a man to fish, they can feed themselves. Okay, so how does this philosophy apply, though, and why is it so important to the real estate business? Well, if you want passive income versus active income in the real estate business, you're going to have to work through other people to achieve that level of independence from the active participation in your real estate investment. And so you're going to want to, whether it's your team or your tenants, teach them to fish. And it's got to be a philosophy within your entire organization or it doesn't work. You've got to have the mindset and the concept that you're not just going to keep doing for people all of the time things they should and could be able to do for themselves. Whether that's a team member who's coming to you asking you for a question, do you just give them the answer, or do you show them how to get the answer? Or maybe that's a tenant. Do you just take their phone call and put their work order in, or do you teach them to go into the portal and put that work order in so that they're documenting the work orders on their end, and you need less interaction with that person about simple issues that they could resolve online? Or when somebody calls you and asks you, what's the balance on my account? Do you just give them the answer, or do you teach them to go to their portal and allow them the opportunity to research that information first before even needing to make the phone call and give you? The more you teach them to fish, the less you have to invest your time actively participating in those relationships and with those team members. They learn to be able to be self-sufficient and do these things on their own. So the 2 tips so far have been greet them at the door, give them a tour, sit them down and talk. Tip number 1. Tip number 2 is we want to teach them to fish, not give them a fish. All right. Tip number 3, no matter what the economy is, no matter whether we have a Joe Biden economy or a Donald Trump economy, no matter which way the political winds are leaning, these tips apply to everybody. The last tip that I'd like to be able to give you is provide clear and actionable steps for team members to follow and make calls setting appointments for them. Make calls collecting rent for them. Make calls showing them exactly how you handle the situation. When you're teaching people to fish, or when you're teaching those tenants to do different things, the philosophy is to see one, do one, teach one, right? That's how people typically learn. They see it done, then they do it themselves, and then they're able to teach somebody else how to do those things. Well, you want to provide clear and actionable steps for team members to follow in making calls, setting appointments, collecting rents, and have policies and procedures and processes in place so the mistakes don't happen. Some of the greatest mistakes I find in business, some of the greatest impacts I have seen where people struggle in business, is they put an overemphasis on getting things done versus taking the time to do it all right up front so that there's not major issues on the back end. And I'll give you a perfect example. You rush a move in because, geez, you need to fill the building, and you don't take the time to properly screen the tenant. The paycheck stubs you don't even look at. I'll give you a recent example. We have a tenant that is moving from Florida to Missouri. And in that process, we just simply asked the question, how are you going to receive your income when you get to Missouri from Florida? Do you work from home? What's the deal? No. I'm going to find a new job when I get to Missouri. Well, you don't have any income to pay the rent. So now you have the income to move in, but you don't have the income to sustain paying the rent long term. And we didn't follow the proper policies and procedures of vetting the application up front. You move that tenant into that unit just because you need them. And guess what? You have major problems. You're going through evictions. You now have a poor relationship with the tenant. In addition, so you're having to spend extra money on attorneys, and you're going to have additional vacancy all from the time that you weren't collecting rent from a tenant who should be and could be paying you to live inside your unit. Doing things right matters, guys. It doesn't matter the economy. Valuing people matters, guys. It doesn't matter the economy. Taking time to teach other people to fish versus doing everything for other people doesn't matter the economy. It doesn't matter the political winds, guys. You can do all of these things. All right, guys. I appreciate you hanging in there today with me, talking all about the debates from last night. No matter whether you're Donald Trump or you're Joe Biden, doesn't matter. We got to have a strategy to approach either one of those situations. Now, if you are looking for additional help on growing your business, whether that's your real estate business, your real estate investing business, maybe you're a real estate agent, and you need a growth coach. Guys, I'm offering a free one-on-one complimentary consultation. There's no obligation, no risk. We set it up. The only thing that I ask is that I can record the session for my inner circle. So if you'll let me coach you one free time, you want to learn about sales techniques, strategies, growth techniques, marketing, I talk all of those things in the one-on-one coaching session. Or if you want to learn to do it all on your own, just go get my book, The Caesar Method, head on over to Amazon, and we can do so. And that, Renovation Nation, brings us to the end of another episode. I'm Nathan Bush, your guide on this real estate journey of business growth. You know, remember, just like plants need the right air, soil, and care, our minds need the right life to build a purpose of passion, of growth, purpose. And don't forget to get your citizenship to Mind Renovation Nation. Follow us. And here's how you do it. You subscribe to the email list by going to nathanbushmba.com/subscribe. You head over to YouTube. You smash the bell so that you're subscribed on YouTube. And you share the show with a friend. You do that, you join the Renovation Nation. I got plenty of gifts for you. This lets other people know about this real estate business growth journey that we do every Friday at noon. So join me next time for more insights, inspiration, and of course, a little bit of that nation building spirit that drives us to create this community of shared values, purpose, and a commitment to leaving a lasting legacy. Until then, guys, keep building, keep growing, and let's lead more than 25,000 souls to a life of values-based investing. In our journey of Mind Renovation Nation, we often talk about personal growth, ethical leadership, and making impactful choices. Values-based investing is just an extension of that philosophy. It's about being a steward, not only of the finances, but of our values and vision for the future. So thanks for joining me, guys. I'm signing off from the heart of St. Louis. Stay blessed, stay inspired. Remember, every day is a chance to renovate your nation. Thanks, guys.